Greetings and salutations, everyone, and welcome to today's bonus. I hope all of you are still doing well. Before we get into this, a couple links. As you know, I rely on Patreon, PayPal, and the merch to help the channel to continue to grow and go. Links to Patreon and PayPal are in the description below. Merch displayed directly under the video. Also, Dogman Frightening Encounters, Volume 1 through 3, the audiobook versions. They were written and researched by Tom Lyons, narrated and produced by me, Jeff Nadolny. Those audiobooks are available on Audible, Amazon, and iTunes, the links to which are also in the description as well. And finally, last but definitely not least, if you'd really like to help support this channel to continue to grow and go, simply subscribe. It doesn't cost you a cent. Click that like button. It takes half a second. If you don't want to miss out on any of the informative and exciting uploads I put out daily, click that bell icon. And finally, please leave a comment. Why? Well, because all of these things, they do help this channel to continue to grow and go, and folks, they matter. Now, everyone, I have taken far too much of your time. Let's get on with today's bonus, shall we? Today's bonus upload is dedicated to a dear friend of mine who just recently passed, Claudia Ackley. She is was a very wonderful and beautiful woman in heart and spirit. She sued the state of California for proof of Bigfoot, not for financial means, but proof that they knew that Bigfoot existed. I had done numerous interviews with Claudia, and to be honest with you, she texted me 2 weeks before her sudden death. She will be missed. This upload is dedicated to you, Claudia. And the first part is actually all about Claudia. Today's first part of the upload is a very interesting news article, or two articles that I stumbled across. The videos that will be mentioned in this news article, the links to those videos will be in the description below. Now, on with the show. Woman sues California Department of Fish and Wildlife for ignoring the existence of Bigfoot. San Bernardino woman is suing California Department of Fish and Wildlife and State Natural Resources Agency for not acknowledging the existence of Bigfoot. Claudia Ackley told the Press Enterprise she ran into the long-fabled creature while hiking in Lake Arrowhead of last year. Ackley said she was hiking late one March day when she and her two daughters ran into the Sasquatch. I ran into a Sasquatch, a Bigfoot. We were face to face. He was 30 feet up in a tree, Ackley told the paper. He looked like a Neanderthal man with hair all over him. He had solid black eyes. He had no expression on his face at all. He didn't show his teeth. He just stared at the three of us. Ackley said her daughter told her she saw two of the creatures run away following the encounter, adding that her daughter captured the encounter on video, which Press Enterprise published online. People have to be warned about these things. They are big, Ackley says. We are totally vulnerable to these things. A lawsuit filed on January 18th alleges the State Departments of failing to acknowledge the existence of the Sasquatch species, despite documented and scientific evidence, according to the Press Enterprise. This next article gets into it a little more. It's led to ridicule and harassment and anxiety, but she still believes. She knows that some people think she's crazy, but she still believes. It might even mean that cars with government plates are following her. She's not sure. She's got a picture of one of their license plates, but she still believes. And now she wants the state of California to believe as well. After her most recent sighting, the 46-year-old mother of two sued the California Department of Fish and Wildlife to get it to recognize Sasquatch, the enormous, hairy, humanoid creature, or creatures, allegedly seen by thousands of eyewitnesses as an actual species. A spokeswoman for the department would not comment on an ongoing litigation. Her first court hearing is set for Monday in San Bernardino. It might be easy to mock Ackley or call her a publicity seeker, but speaking to her, she comes across as completely sincere and a polite person. She's proud of her daughters and friendly. She seems to be genuinely grappling with something huge and unsettling, and she isn't asking for monetary damages. The video frame shows the moment Claudia Ackley was hiking in Arrowhead, California, and allegedly encountered the Bigfoot. All she wants, she says, is to let people know that something is out there, and it is not friendly. Last March, Ackley was out for a hike with her two daughters, ages 14 and 11, near Lake Arrowhead, California. She says they were at the trailhead with their dog when one of her daughters saw something that made her freeze in her tracks. Claudia ran forward and saw it as well. What, she says, was an alpha male Sasquatch looking back at her from behind the split of a tree. She got her daughters and got out of there. They were all terrified, she says. On their way back, she found out that one of her daughters had been taking a video at the time. The video only lasts for seconds, and it's unclear, Ackley's daughter says. I swear to God, Mom, the dog walks in front of the camera. There's a dark space in the trees. It might be a shadow, it might be a bear, it might be nothing. But Ackley is adamant. I swear to God on my life we ran into Sasquatch. She called the State Department of Fish and Wildlife, which sent out an investigator. She showed the video to the investigator. She says she was told she saw a bear. Ackley scoffs at that. My daughters have seen bears. They are not scared by bears. This was not Ackley's first sighting as well. She says she's seen this creature multiple times over the years, the first time up close in Washington State, during a Bigfoot trek arranged as a vacation with her then-husband in 2014. She saw what she thought was a small 5-foot Bigfoot in the trees and locked eyes with it. She even made a plaster mold of the alleged footprint. The sighting has changed my life, she says. I realized at the point, looking at the creature, that there is so much of life that we don't know. Life is so beautiful. And I'm wasting my years, she says. I've lost 125 pounds and decided to get a divorce. It motivated me to chase my dreams and live my life. It doesn't matter to her that there isn't much of what scientists or courts will call evidence, or the fact that even though nearly everyone carries an HD video camera in their pockets now, the best footage of Bigfoot is nearly 51-year-old film. The DNA evidence collected so far has been shown to be from humans or bears or other animals, or that nobody has ever produced a Bigfoot body or even a bone. Belief and facts, however, are different things, says Michael Shermer, an author, professor, and publisher of Skeptic magazine. For Ackley to win a court case, she's going to need more than just an eyewitness account, Shermer warns. You can't sue the state of California to protect a species if you can't prove that species exists, he says. That applies to everything from a snail to a Bigfoot. You can't just show up at the conference and say, I saw this incredible thing at 3 a.m. on a camping trip. Can I name it? No. You have to have a body. Ackley says she will bring a mountain of evidence to court. In addition to her video, she says she has new DNA analysis, as well as testimony from Robert Gilman, one of the men who took the famous 67 footage of Bigfoot. Ackley admits she's tired of the skepticism and ridicule. She's having trouble getting a lawyer to go to court with her. She's filed the suit herself, and she finds the questions from reporters and other people draining. But she still believes and hopes her effort might keep people safe. They're supposed to be there to protect the public. They're not doing their jobs, she says. If I can save one life, it'll be worth it. Bigfoot, she maintains, is dangerous. People's lives are at risk. This is not a friendly, shy, vegetarian creature who runs away at the first sight of humans. They are a potential killer. For proof, she points to the murky world of YouTube videos and podcasts featuring secondhand stories from witnesses who claim to have been attacked by Bigfoot, or at least a creature a lot like Bigfoot. In these accounts, Bigfoot attacks people and maybe even kills them. It's hard to find any corroboration or even any names to go with these stories, but Ackley still believes in them. It's my opinion, she says. I've never researched it. I believe it's true. Well, you know what, Mr. Skeptic Magazine, Mr. Murar, Shermar, whatever your name is, butt plug. I've got a mountain of papers with subscribers that I can put names to that I won't because of anonymity. But if those guys ever want to come out, I'll be right with them at the forefront. It's been far too long that people who have had encounters get ridiculed and treated like second-rate citizens because we've seen something and we come to the forefront and say what we've seen. That just makes me upset. And then to the dark world of YouTube. We're dark? I didn't realize that the world of YouTube is dark. Actually, I've met some of the greatest and nicest people on my channel that I've met in my entire life. I mean, that really upsets me. I'm going to try to reach out to the woman. And, I'd like to interview her, to be honest with you. And, offer her what little help I can help her with. Anyway. All I can do is give her a big round of applause because she's doing what she's doing now by coming out and facing the ridicule and everything else. She's showing us that it really does matter that we are heard and we should not be ridiculed. Today's second part of the upload. My encounter happened in mid-July of 2015. It was a gorgeous Saturday, and I was looking forward to traveling down from Wales to Yeovil, Somerset, to spend the weekend at a friend's house and have a relaxing weekend away. The drive was long and full of traffic on the way to Somerset. This was the first time I had ever been to his house where he lives alone. I soon discovered that he lives far from any main roads, as I drove my car through a winding country lane 3 miles away from the closest A road with barely any houses around the location. Just to help you imagine how dark it was that night. Once I arrived, we both decided to go to his local pub, about a 20-minute walk from his place, to grab a meal as we both didn't feel like cooking. After we finished our dinner, I excused myself for an after-dinner smoke outside the front, when I noticed 2 men, one of which had a large Irish wolfhound. He seemed to be upset, speaking to his friend. Both looked in the late 60s, probably 70s. When I was eavesdropping on their conversation, the older man with his dog was explaining how 2 of his enormous Irish wolfhounds went missing one night when he shut them out for the night. I just dismissed this, as dogs are stolen quite often. I stubbed out my fag, and we walked back into this place. Soon after arriving at his house, he told me he was going to spend the night at his girlfriend's for the night of fun. He asked me if it would be okay staying at his place alone. Of course, I replied, "Sure, mate, no worries." This meant I could just chill, drink some tea, smoke, watch a film or two. I'm normally a horror fan, but being on my own in the middle of nowhere that night, I decided to watch a more sensible choice. At 12:30 a.m., my film of choice, Die Hard, had finished. I went around the house checking that the doors and large windows were locked, only leaving the smaller windows open. as it was extremely warm that night. I lied on his sofa to sleep with my sheet, completely engulfed in the darkness, with not a single light on in the house or outside. I'd been asleep for an hour when I was awoken by a yipping noise. My eyes at this point were wide open, lying there, but listening to this horribly creepy noise. I guessed a dog, but I've never heard of a dog make a noise like that before. The noise was coming from the stables next door, which were empty and was moving all around the house. After about 10 minutes it stopped. I, being myself, wondered if it was a fox or foxes fighting or playing. So I rolled a cigarette, grabbed my torch from my car, and walked out into the yard driveway, or the rear of the house, and the stables. I was on guard in case it was a dog like the missing Irish wolfhounds, which are very, very large dogs. That's when I heard a loud, but very low rumbling growl from behind the stables. I completely froze, shining my light onto the end of the stable. I could see nothing there, but knew from hunting that there was something there. I tried to mimic the yipping I heard earlier, badly mimicking, I will admit it. I quickly learned I made a horrible, horrible mistake. Its head appeared only 20 to 30 feet from me from the stables. Its head was about 3 feet off the ground on all fours. It was no dog that I recognized. Once it completely appeared, its body was huge, lean and covered in thin, almost non-existent hair. But up towards its shoulders and head, it had thick black fur, pointed ears, and a large snout like the German Shepherd, just a lot bigger and wider. At this point, I didn't know what I was looking at. It looked like a dog, but it wasn't. It was far too large. And the human-like arms and shoulder sockets confirmed it. It bared its teeth at me, rolling out a low and louder growl than before. I bolted back to the house, the fastest I've ever ran, slamming the door from behind me, locking it and closing the small window to the living room, drawing the blinds as well. I was breathing uncontrollably and panicking, being unsure if it had followed me back, knowing it would have caught me if it desired to. For the rest of the night I could hear yipping and distorted bark circling the house until about 4:30, when all fell silent. I have never been a believer in ghosts, ghouls, demons, dogman, werewolves, vampires, etc., but now, after what I saw, if that was a werewolf or a dogman, I don't feel safe anymore. I always thought them to be a creation of Hollywood or filmmakers, but now I know they are real, living, breathing things. I can say, hand on heart, I won't be returning to my friend's house, nor will I go into the countryside or the woods at night. Today's third encounter. I'm a 56-year-old of sound mind, with many of those years spent hunting and exploring Liberty County and other East Texas woods and bottoms. I continue my passion of wilderness backpacking with recent trips to the toughest areas in Big Bend National Park, and do solo backpack on Eagle Rock Loop in Arkansas, where I came face to face with a bear. I'm cautious but composed when I get into the woods, and not inclined to overreact to crucial incidences in the wild. The other night, Tuesday, while walking at the edge of the Liberty that leads down toward an uninhibited Trinity Bottom, I saw something. Disclaimer, although I did see something, I acknowledge that mind play tricks on perception, and imagination fills in the gaps around what the eyes see and don't see. I've taken several days to soberly sift the conclusion that I will now share. At about 10:30 p.m., I was walking along an area on the edge of the Liberty that leads down toward the Trinity Bottoms. My mind was completely at ease and drifting around various projects, backpacking memories, and dreams of purchasing a new gun. The night was clear, and I was enjoying the moon and stars. I was carrying my trusty old golf club for safety. All of a sudden, a supercharged adrenaline rush focused all of my concentration on movement on my side of a tree located about 50 yards in front of me. You've experienced these moments, from daydreams to instantly tense, all in fight or flight. In a fraction of a second, my arms and hands began tingling, my ears rang with TV static kind of sound, and my vision and hearing became sharply acute. Whether or not my perception is accurate, this instantaneous psychological rush was 100% real. It was a time standstill, brief loss of motor skills moment. My adrenaline focus involuntarily targeted a large, shoulder-high to the lower limbs of a sizable tree. Bipedal, something walking deliberately around a tree and down toward the bottom. The walk was upright, but a little hunched from upper mid-back up, and the head was erect. Color, a burnish red-gray. More on the gray in a second. The walk was the swaying gait of the Star Wars Wookiee, but quite a bit less exaggerated, with knees slightly bent. The swinging arc of the right arm was very visible. Relative to my location, it was walking from left to right, and I saw that the arm, wrist, hand was somewhat longer than a normal human. It used its left hand to push aside a limb. It took a brief glancing look at me. In the moonlight, the center of its face was less hairy and seemed to be slightly more gray, made visible. The standard eyes, nose, forehead, jaw features of a hairy face. This glance did not slow its motion. In fact, the deliberate motion became more purposeful as it pushed around the tree and back into thicker trees. Note, this was a 2 or 3 second glimpse before it disappeared into thicker trees or brush. My reaction was instant. I called my wife on my cell phone and told her I saw something, and that I was getting the hell out of there and fast. Instead of following the trail, it would have taken me near to the location of the glimpse. I tore straight through from where I stood to a gate out of the area and closer to more developed liberty. Today's fourth encounter, Wood County, Texas. I normally get up rather early, put on coffee, and let my small dogs and one coonhound out to relieve their bladders. This morning, being rather cool, I didn't stay out with the dogs, but went back into my home. My daughter was visiting and was still asleep. The dogs began barking. In an effort to quiet the dogs, I stepped out onto the porch. The Chihuahua, Min Pin, and Sheltie Rat Terrier were in a small pen. The coonhound on a tether. The coonhound, instead of going to the end of her tether, was only about a quarter of the way extended. The small dogs were penned, but were all looking southward toward the woods. The dogs had a strange bark. Not like seeing a person on the road or a deer. Those barks are familiar. The only way I can describe the barking is that it was rather whiny. I looked in the direction the dogs were watching and was shocked to see a large form. The young growth in the pines were about 3 to 4 feet tall. This form appeared to be twice the height of the pines. The form was bulky, no neck, and it blended in with the dappling of the larger trees. I kept looking and questioning myself, and realized I truly was looking at something unusual. I pounded on the side of my house, awakening my daughter to also witness the incident. The large form did not turn right or left, but seemed to be moving slowly and steadily backward into the cover of the woods. By the time my daughter got outside, the creature had blended into the woods. Today's fifth and final encounter are two encounters that happened almost at the same time on the same day. Montgomery County, Texas. I'm a security officer located at a facility being built in the woodland. I was on graveyard shift with another officer as we were patrolling the parking lot after making our rounds throughout the facility. The parking lot was not well lit due to the fact that they had not set up the lighting yet. The construction trailers are the only lighted areas other than in the building. We came to a stopping point in our rounds when I just glanced over toward the trailer. I had to make a double take when I saw a figure walking slowly by. We were roughly 30 yards away, and I alerted my co-officer as to what I was seeing. We stood there in shock, not believing our eyes. The figure was at least 7 feet tall with a sort of hunched back. The stride it was taking was much more larger than a normal man. Company policy states that I must contact local authorities, so I called 911 and described what I saw to the operator. The figure walked into the woods out of the sight. Montgomery County, Texas. I was on break at the still under construction new Fox building in the woodlands when I saw something big move out from behind the trees for a moment. It was something I still cannot explain. All I know is that it was like nothing I had ever seen before in my life, and I spent a great deal of time in the outdoors. I still haven't told friends and family about this. I'm from California and work in broadcast. I was brought out to Texas to help out on the broadcast side of the bill. Alright guys, I hope you all enjoyed today's bonus upload as much as I enjoyed sharing it with you. Once again, Claudia Ackley, you will be missed. You were a great friend. Every time I called her or talked to her, it was just like talking to the warmest soul. Every time I talked to her, she filled me with just joy and I was just, I don't know. I can't even explain it. You'd have to honestly have had to talk to her in person to know the type of person she was, but she was truly a wonderful, wonderful person. You'll be missed again, Claudia. Guys, with that, stay safe, happy, healthy. God bless.